The chair was gone. I stood in the doorway of my own living room, with my coat still on and my reading glasses fogged from the cold. And the empty space where Walter's chair had been for 37 years was so loud it was almost a sound. The lamp beside it was still there. The small oak side table with the water ring he had made one summer in 1991 was still there. The book I had been reading on his armrest the night before was sitting on the table, slightly closed, a receipt holding my place. But the chair itself, the worn leather wingback Walter had sat in every evening from 1988 until the morning he died, was simply not there. I did not call out. I did not panic. I set down my grocery bag on the foyer bench, the one he had built for me the year Caleb was born, and I walked through the house slowly, the way a woman walks when she is gathering information instead of reacting. The kitchen was clean. The dining room had been rearranged. The runner was a different one. Cream linen with small, embroidered birds I had never seen before. The framed photograph of Walter and me on the mantel had been moved to the side, replaced in the centre by a black and white print of my daughter-in-law Tessa's parents at their wedding in 1972. I walked down the hallway. The guest room. My guest room. In the house Walter had finished paying for in 2009 had been redecorated. The quilt I had made for it was folded on a chair. The bed had a new headboard, white tufted, the kind they sell in catalogues photographed in California houses with too many windows. I went out the side door to the garage. The chair was there, pushed against the back wall behind a stack of cardboard boxes labelled Donate. A blue plastic tarp was draped over the top of it, the corners weighed down with 2 paint cans. Someone had been efficient. Someone had been thorough. Someone had, very recently, decided that Walter's chair did not belong in the room where Walter had lived. I stood very still in the cold, concrete light of my own garage. I did not cry. My hands didn't tremble. I lifted the tarp. The leather was the same. The small, worn place on the right armrest, where his hand had rested through 47 years of evenings, was the same. The faint scent pipe tobacco from the years he had smoked, then aftershave, then nothing but old leather was the same. I put my palm on the back of the chair. "Walter," I said quietly to my empty garage, "I think we have a situation." Then I walked back inside, and I went to my bedroom, and I closed the door, and I sat on the edge of the bed I had slept in alone for 14 months, and I made myself remember the conversation I had not wanted to have for almost a year. Caleb and Tessa had moved in last August. "Just temporarily, Mom." Caleb had said it 3 different ways on 3 different phone calls. The remodel of their own house was running long. The contractor had quit. The insurance was contested. 6 weeks, 8 at the most. That was 11 months ago. I had said yes. Of course I had said yes. He was my son. He had come home after his father's funeral and held my hand and told me he didn't want me to be alone in the big house and in the soft hollow of grief that had sounded like love. It had not been love. I sat on the edge of my bed and I let myself count. Not years this time, rooms. The dining room, rearranged in November. We thought it would feel fresher, Mum. The kitchen, pantry reorganized in January. My spices in alphabetical order, according to Tessa's preference. My cast iron skillet, Walter's mother's, from 1962, moved to the basement because Tessa preferred ceramic. The mantel, Walter's photograph slid sideways in March. The guest room, redecorated in May. "We just thought you'd like a refresh, Mum." And now the chair, in the garage, under a tarp, on the first day of October. I had been told my husband was being made into clutter in the house we had built together. I had been told it kindly. I had been told it in small, smiling sentences over coffee. "Mum, the chair is just so worn. Mum, the leather doesn't really match anymore. Mum, when guests come over, in my house." I sat on the bed and I did not cry. I picked up the phone instead. The woman I called was named Beatrice Pendrick. She had been Walter's lawyer for 31 years and had been mine for the 14 months since he died. She picked up on the second ring, even though it was 4:17 on a Wednesday afternoon, because Beatrice and I had reached the stage of our relationship where she answered her own phone for me. Catherine. B. The deed. She paused, just briefly. Whose deed? Mine. The house on Hollander Lane. The one Walter and I bought in 1986. The one I added Caleb and Tessa to last September after the funeral, when I was not in my right mind, and you told me to wait 6 months and I didn't listen. Another pause. Longer this time. Catherine, are you telling me you want them off the deed? I am telling you they moved Walter's chair into the garage. A long quiet. Beatrice had known Walter. Walter had bought her a steak dinner at the firm's holiday party in 1998 for talking sense into me about a property he wanted me to invest in, and she had given me a look across the table that night that said, "Your husband is a smart man, and he knows it. Tomorrow morning at 9, she said, bring everything. B, can it be done?" Catherine, you added them as joint tenants with right of survivorship. That means you cannot remove them unilaterally. But, and her voice took on the small, precise edge, I had heard her use exactly twice in our entire acquaintance. You also retained sole ownership of 51% of the underlying equity through a clause. Walter insisted I write. Do you remember it? I closed my eyes. I did not remember it. He called it the grandfather clause, Beatrice said. It says that if any joint tenant added after his death engages in conduct materially altering the homestead in ways inconsistent with the spirit in which it was preserved, the controlling tenant, that is you, may invoke a buyout at $1. I sat very still on my bed. Walter wrote that. Walter wrote that, Catherine, 6 weeks before he died. He called me into his hospital room and said, "B, my wife is going to be too kind to my son when I'm gone. I want you to put a door in the floor that only she can open." I did not cry. Not yet. I held the phone to my ear and I looked at the closed door of my bedroom, behind which my daughter-in-law was probably arranging something else of mine into a different place than I had left it. "Tomorrow at 9, I said. "Wear something nice." "Why?" "Because we are going to file a notice of buyout invocation, and you are going to feel better about yourself in pearls." I almost laughed. I had heard that sentence before, from a different lawyer, in a different woman's life, and I knew now that it was the sentence women lawyers say to other women who are about to take their lives back. That evening at dinner, Tessa served roast chicken on the cream linen with the embroidered birds. She had lit candles. She had opened a bottle of wine. I recognized from Walter's cellar a 2009 Brunello he had been saving for our 40th anniversary, which had occurred 8 months after he died and which I had not marked. "This is lovely," I said. "Thank you, Catherine," Tessa said. She did not call me Mom. She had stopped calling me Mom in February, around the time the kitchen was reorganized. I had not commented. I had been collecting evidence. I realized now, without quite knowing what for. Caleb served the chicken. Tessa poured the wine. Their daughter Marley, who was 11, sat across from me and ate her green beans in the slow, careful way. She ate everything when her mother was watching. "Mum," Caleb said, "we wanted to talk to you about something." I lifted my fork. "Of course." The living room, Tess and I were thinking. Now that we've been here a while, and the holidays are coming, we wanted to do a little refresh, just to make it feel more neutral. "Neutral," I repeated. "Welcoming, for everyone." Tessa smiled. "We thought maybe a sectional, something light. The wingback was just it was so dad's, you know, and it kind of dominated the room." I set down my fork. Marley looked up. 11-year-olds always notice the moment the adults stop pretending. "Walter's chair," I said. "It's in the garage, Mom. We didn't get rid of it." We just thought for the season. We can bring it back in the spring. I looked at Marley. She looked at her plate. Then she looked at me. There was something in her face I had not expected. Something old. Something my own. Marley, I said. Sweetheart, would you mind if I asked you something? Caleb shifted. Tessa's smile thinned. Marley nodded. Did you know they moved Grandpa's chair? Mom, Caleb said. I know they did, Marley said quietly. I asked Mom not to. The silence at the table changed temperature. Tessa set down her wineglass. Marley, we talked about this. I'm sorry, Mom, but Grandma asked. I looked at Tessa, then at Caleb. Caleb was looking at his plate. Tessa was looking at her daughter with the specific sharpness mothers get when their children testify in front of company. Marley, I said gently. It's all right, sweet pea. You can be excused if you'd like. Take your plate. Go read something nice. She got up immediately. She kissed the top of my head as she passed my chair, a thing she had not done in a year, and she went up the stairs, with her plate held very carefully in both hands. When her bedroom door closed upstairs, I turned back to Caleb and Tessa. I folded my napkin. I placed it beside my plate. I stood up. Mum, Caleb said, where are you going? To bed, sweetheart. I have an appointment in the morning. Mum, we were going to talk about the sectional. Caleb, we are not going to talk about the sectional. What does that mean? I looked at him. My son, 43 years old, the boy I had labored 21 hours to deliver in 1981. The man who had moved his father's chair into the garage and lit candles over a wine his father had been saving. It means good night. I went up the stairs. I did not slam my bedroom door. I closed it softly, the way Walter used to close doors when he did not want to wake the baby. Beatrice's office at 9 o'clock on Thursday morning smelled like printer ink, and the chamomile tea she kept on a small electric warmer behind her desk. She wore a charcoal suit. Her reading glasses were pushed up on her white hair. She had 3 folders laid out on the polished oak between us. Read this first. She slid me a single page. Walter's handwriting. The grandfather clause, in his small, precise letters, dated 6 weeks before he died. In the event that any party added to the deed after my death engages in material alteration of the homestead, inconsistent with its preservation as a home, my wife shall retain sole and absolute right to invoke a $1 buyout of all such parties. Underneath, in Walter's hand, B, make sure she uses this if she has to. She won't want to. Make her. I looked up at Beatrice. B. Yes. Walter wrote, make her. He did. How did he know? Catherine, he had been your husband for 47 years. He knew you better than you know yourself. He also knew Caleb. He told me the words I'm about to repeat are his, not mine, he told me. Caleb is a good boy who married a careful woman, and careful women do not leave other women's furniture alone. I sat with that for a long moment. All right, B, let's do it. We worked for 2 hours. Beatrice drafted 3 documents. The first was the formal invocation of the grandfather clause, citing specific material alterations. The chair, the photograph, the kitchen, the guest room. We attached photographs. I had taken them on my phone that morning before I left the house, walking through every room while Caleb and Tessa were still asleep, documenting like a stranger. The second was the buyout notice. $1, delivered by certified mail, to be presented to Caleb and Tessa with 30 days to vacate the property and execute the deed transfer back to my sole name. The third was a letter from me. Beatrice insisted on it. Catherine, you don't have to mail it, but you'll regret not writing it. I wrote it in her conference room. Caleb, your father wrote a clause 6 weeks before he died because he loved me enough to know I would be too kind to you. He was right. I have been too kind. I have watched my husband's chair, my photograph, my kitchen, and my guest room becomes someone else's furniture in someone else's house, and I have called it generosity. It was not generosity, it was disappearing. I am no longer disappearing. The chair goes back in the living room, or you go out of the house. Those are the two doors. Choose one. Mom, I sealed the envelope myself. The certified packet went out at 2:43 p.m. on Thursday afternoon. By 6:18 p.m., my phone began to ring. The first voicemail from Caleb came at 6:19. Mom, there's a letter from Beatrice Pendrick about the deed, about Mom. What is this? A $1 buyout? You're forcing us out. Mom, please call me. There's been some kind of mistake. The second 6:47. Mom, Tessa is Tessa. Just read the whole packet. She's furious. She says we have rights. She says you can't just invoke some clause, Dad wrote in a hospital room. Mom, this isn't fair. We've been helping you. We've been here. Call me back. The third, 8:12. Mom, I read the clause. I read what Dad wrote. The part where he said make her. Mom, I don't know what to say. Please call me. His voice was different in the third one. Smaller. The voice of a man who has just read his dead father's handwriting, telling his wife to use a clause against him. The fourth voicemail came at 9:31, and it was Tessa. Catherine, this has gotten completely out of hand. Whatever you think happened with the chair, it was a temporary decorating decision. A family conversation that absolutely did not warrant a legal document. I want you to know that I am extremely disappointed. Marley is upset. We are all upset. We need to sit down like adults and discuss this without lawyers. I noticed the order. Marley is upset. The child Tessa had told to keep quiet at dinner. I deleted that one twice. The fifth voicemail, at 10:04, was Caleb again. Mom, Tess says we should fight it. I don't know if I want to fight it. I'm sitting in the garage right now. I'm looking at Dad's chair. I don't know how I let this happen, Mom. I don't know. I did not delete that one. I did not call him back. I put the phone face down on my nightstand. I lay on my side. I looked at the empty pillow beside me, where Walter had slept for 47 years. You knew, I whispered into the dark room. You knew, you stubborn old man. Then I slept. Tessa came alone on Saturday morning. I knew she would. Caleb would not have come alone. Caleb had spent the night in the garage with his father's chair and would not be ready to look at me until Sunday at the earliest. Tessa, on the other hand, was the kind of careful woman Walter had described, and careful women always come alone when their husbands are too soft for the conversation. She rang the bell at 9:14. I opened the door halfway. Not all the way, halfway. Catherine, Tessa, may I come in? You can stand right there and say what you came to say. She blinked. I had never spoken to her like this. She was wearing a camel coat and lipstick, and the careful expression of a woman who had rehearsed 3 different opening sentences in her car. Catherine, this is unnecessary. The chair is back in the living room. I had Caleb move it last night. The mantel is fixed. The runner is changed. Whatever else you want, I'll change. That's wonderful, Tessa. Then call off the buyout. No. She blinked again. Catherine, you can't be serious. I am perfectly serious. We fixed it. Tessa, you did not fix it. You moved the furniture back when a lawyer told you to. That is not the same thing. She opened her mouth, closed it. What do you want from us? I want you out of my house. By the end of the month, Caleb can come visit. Marley can come stay for weekends. You and I will see each other at holidays, on neutral ground, like the in-laws we should have been from the start. Catherine, we have nowhere to go. Tessa, you have a remodeled house 17 miles from here that has been ready for occupancy since March. I called the contractor yesterday. He told me it was finished. He told me you fired him in February over a tile dispute, and the project sat unfinished for 6 weeks. because you wouldn't approve a replacement. Which means, Tessa, that you have been living in my house with my furniture and my husband's chair for the last 4 months because you preferred my zip code to your own. Her face went the blotchy color of a woman who is not used to being described accurately. You investigated us. Tessa, I asked one question of one contractor. This is hostile, Catherine. No. Hostile would be calling the police to remove you. Hostile would be locking you out today. Hostile would be filing for damages on a year of unpaid rent on a $2 million property. I am not being hostile. I am giving you 30 days, in writing, with a buyout. I am being unusually kind, and I want you to remember that, because I will not be this kind again. She stared at me. Behind her, on the porch, a sparrow landed on the railing and looked at us both with the indifferent curiosity of a thing that did not have to take sides. Catherine, Caleb will never forgive you. I tilted my head. Tessa, Caleb spent last night in the garage with his father's chair. I think Caleb has already forgiven me. I think he is in the much harder position now of forgiving himself. She turned. She walked back to her car. She did not look back. She drove away. I closed the door. I went to my kitchen. I made tea, Earl Grey, in the chipped china cup Walter had bought me in London in 1994. And I sat at my own table by the window in the home that had become my home again. Caleb came on Sunday. He stood on my porch in the same flannel shirt he had been wearing in the garage on Saturday. His hair was uncombed. He looked, for the first time in a long time, like the boy I had raised and not the man Tessa had married. I opened the door all the way for him. He sat on the bench Walter had built. I sat in the chair across from him. Walter's chair. For a long time, neither of us spoke. Then Caleb said, very quietly, Dad knew. He did. He knew I'd let her. He knew careful women do not leave other women's furniture alone, sweetheart. He didn't know it was you specifically. He just knew it was the shape of the thing. Caleb put his face in his hands. Mum, I'm so sorry. I know. Are we leaving the deed? Yes. Are we leaving the house? Yes. Will you let me come back? Caleb, you will always be welcome here, as my son, not as a tenant, not as a man whose wife rearranges my kitchen, as my son, through the front door, with your shoes on the rug your father bought me in 1989. Do you understand? Yes, Mom. Will you bring Marley? Yes, Mom. Good, he cried then, quietly, adult crying. I let him. After a while I made him tea, and he drank it sitting in his father's chair, which was where he had needed to sit all along. That night I wrote one line in the small notebook I had started keeping the morning after the chair went into the garage. They moved his chair into the garage. So I moved their names off the deed. Walter built doors that only I could open, and tonight I sat in the room he made for me, and I thanked him. Then I closed the notebook, and I sat in his chair, and I read his book, the one with my receipt still holding my place, and I slept that night the way a woman sleeps when her husband, 14 months gone, has reached forward through paperwork and pearls and a clause in his own dying handwriting to remind her, one last time, that she was never as alone as she had let herself believe.